Hello everybody, welcome to Riding with Gravity. I recently did a video where I did sort of my 1-year review of riding around on this motorcycle, and that's really just kind of pros and cons, things to know about the motorcycle, likes and dislikes. But I also wanted to talk a little bit about what is it like just to own a Svartpilen. Just like rider experience, not so much about the bike itself, but what is it like to be an owner, a rider of this motorcycle. And I want to start out with a public service announcement related to motorcycles. And that is, don't forget to clean your bike chain. I clean mine regularly. You know, you could do it every like 400, 600 miles, every couple of weeks, whatever, but just don't forget that basic maintenance step of cleaning your motorcycle chain. And I bring it up because yesterday I cleaned my motorcycle chain, and I always love the day after or the day that I clean the chain, how wonderful the bike feels, how it sounds. It's just so happy with a clean chain. So I did some videos on it, right? Get your bike up on a stand, go ahead and get some chain cleaner, give it a good scrub. I like to hose the chain off and then let it dry before I apply the lube. Some people don't necessarily spray it down with a hose or anything like that, but get that bike chain nice and clean, and then give it a good lube, wax it, and you know, you're off and running. But it feels better, it feels smoother, it sounds better. I just have like a really happy bike, and I'm so excited and happy for my happy bike. I always love the feeling of getting on a nice clean bike with a clean bike chain. It's just great. It performs wonderfully. So public service announcement number 1, go ahead and don't forget to do that basic proper maintenance of cleaning your bike chain. You'll be very happy for it. So what's it like to be an owner of a Svartpilen and ride it around? It's a great all-around bike because it is a wonderful bike for city riding. You can do some nice off-roading with it, lightweight off-roading with it, handles gravel and stuff like that, city streets, bumps, you name it, really, really well. Just love how flickable and lightweight and fun and peppy this motorcycle is. So on a day-to-day basis, this is just a great bike to ride around. You know, I've mentioned that it's not, you know, the perfect bike for highway riding. It can do it, but it's not, you know, ideally set up for that. I still take it on the highway because I'm not, you know, not on the highway that often, so it's not a big deal. If I was going to do a really long distance, like multi-day trip or even, you know, a full day trip, could you do it? Yeah, you could. I'd probably want to do, you know, country roads and stuff like that to have a more peaceful experience. I don't want to be going 80, 85 miles per hour with a bunch of cagers for, you know, 8 hours or whatever. You know, comfort and stability and all those things come into play. But if you're going to do back roads and country roads, you know, go for it. Biggest thing with long distance riding, I think, other than comfort, is just the tank size, right? I mean, if you're going to do it, just make sure that you've planned out your route and you know where you're going to get gas, or you plan to store and carry some extra gas with you so that you're not stranded, because, you know, these I could probably get 150 miles if I was going city to city and I knew the next city was 150 miles away. I'd go ahead and give it a shot probably, because I'm pretty confident that I could pull that off. But anything further than that, I wouldn't want to do it unless I had spare gas with me. So that's just another reason why it's not particularly ideal for that. But hey, this is a great all-around rider, and so I have no complaints about any of that. But as an owner, okay, so first thing was, if you're going to do basic maintenance, like I said, like cleaning the chain and stuff like that, you don't need to put it up on a stand. It's just easier because you can rotate the tire and get the chain to rotate. It just makes it that much easier. And I really wish these motorcycles, any motorcycle actually, just came with a, you know, a recommended bike stand and spool setup, so that you could just immediately get your bike up on a stand without having to try to figure out how to do it yourself. And I mean that because with the Svartpilen, you might have some difficulties finding a good way to set up your spools. I did a video on this, so don't worry about it. Just go check out that video about putting your motorcycle up on a bike stand. There were some specific bolts that I bought so that I could replace the right bolts and get this, get some spools on here and then get it up on a stand. And so it's just, you know, is it a nuisance? It is if you don't know what to buy and how to get the right spools and bolts and everything so you can get it up on a stand. And it's particular to this motorcycle. I did spend, you know, a few hours reading up on what would be a good way to set it up and get it up on a stand, and I finally found that magical comment that gave links to the things that worked for somebody. And so I'm lovingly sharing that back out with all of you, because I don't want you to have to worry about, you know, hey, I got this motorcycle, I want to put it on a stand, and, you know, I can't figure out how to get the right length and thread direction and thread width and all that stuff, bolt, to get my spools on. So again, check that out. I did my research, I figured out what would work. It did indeed work, and so again, happy to share that. But I just wish that out of the box, when you bought it, they'd be like, here you go, for an extra $100, here's a bike cover, spools, and a bike stand. And here's some chain cleaner and a scrub and everything. This is what you need. So go have fun on your motorcycle, just like a care kit, right? Make it optional, but give us that so that we don't have to fuss around with it. I really would love to see that at some point. So dealers out there, if any of you happen to be dealers, please take that recommendation. So anyway, there was that, but anyway, I quickly got into doing some of that basic maintenance and oil changes and things like that. Very doable, a lot of stuff you can do just with, you know, a set of wrenches and some Allen wrenches in particular. So that's one piece of ownership. Bolts, right? Bolts come loose. As a almost year-long owner of a Svartpilen, I lost my license plate. Shame on me, I almost lost it twice. The first time the plate fell off, the second time the plate holder fell off. So first thing I would recommend is get some Loctite to secure your bolts. Take your license plate and your plate holder off, and then put it back on. Get it nice and snug and use Loctite, because the plate holder for me almost fell off. I was not expecting that. You should expect that, right? Especially if you're riding around like I am on city streets that tend to be, you know, a little bumpy. You know, you're gonna shake this bike around. It has great suspension, so it can handle all that really well. I find it very comfortable. But at the same time, just make sure that you're ready to secure bolts. For me, the biggest thing, like I said, was the license plate. Not a big deal. I went in and got a new license plate, but I didn't want to lose it twice. Luckily, I did not. Certainly not going to lose it at this point. And I mean, I check as part of my daily checks. I make sure that everything is kind of nice and snug and I don't have any loose bolts. But you know, it's you can forget. You know, it's the kind of thing you can forget. Also, when I was doing the mirrors as an owner, taking off this one, it followed the proper lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. This one, which I plugged, right, when I took the mirror off here, that one is not a righty-tighty lefty. It's a you have to turn it the opposite direction to get it off. Just be aware of that. If you don't think that comes off, it turns the other way. It's kind of odd, but that's just how it works. Not a big deal. And then when I put these bar end mirrors on, I did actually, again, use Loctite, because I don't want any vibrations in these. So if I don't want vibrations, what can I do to control for that? I can get it as tight as I possibly can, and I can use Loctite. On these bar end mirrors, there's a single bolt that connects it to the handlebar, and then there's I think 6 other little tiny ones that take this assembly and combine it. That's important if you were going to flip the mirrors around and things like that. So you do have to play around with those little bolts. I Loctited those as well because I noticed that they started to come loose. So good rule of thumb, just use Loctite. keep those bolts in there. You'll be able to get them out, but keep them as secure as you possibly can. I love the ergos of this bike, the upright rider position. You're never really putting much weight on your handlebars. you can still tuck in and everything, and again, you still don't really have to put much weight on it. Makes it for really nice, again, in riding around in the city setting. Just getting those balls of your feet back on the pegs, and as you get to bumps and stuff, just lifting yourself up makes it really easy, and again, it handles these bumps, you know, really nicely. So I love that. Just the overall rider experience is great. I'll say this though about the tires. So okay, the tires have tubes. It's a good thing and a bad thing. I've made this recommendation before. Here's what happened to me. I got a flat tire. I was in the city. I pulled over in a parking lot, and then I called around to try to find a tow truck, and I was there for probably about 2 hours just waiting for a towing service that knew how to handle a motorcycle to come and pick up my motorcycle because I caught a flat tire. That's because I couldn't use a patch kit. I couldn't just plug it, patch it, inflate it, and ride it to the nearest place to get a new tire, right? If it was tubeless, I could do that, but it has tubes and the tube was ruptured, so that was not possible. I did actually do it just for fun because I figured it was good practice. So I actually plugged it, I patched it, I inflated it just to see what would happen. And yeah, it just leaks because the tube is busted, right? But it was good practice, and I just took that as an opportunity. Hey, I want to practice this because at some point I'm probably going to need to do it. No harm, no foul. If the tire's already flat, I might as well just practice now because I'm not going to do anything that I can't undo or whatever, right? So anyway, I did that just to practice. But the lesson learned, go ahead and do your research. Find a place that is a towing service that knows how to handle motorcycles, because you might have a mechanical failure, whatever it is, right? If you run out of gas, you can find somebody to drop off some gas for you, whatever, right? But if you ever need a tow, that's not the time to be trying to figure out how to get one and spend a bunch of time on your phone calling around trying to get a towing service. So anyway, now that I've got one, I love it because I've used them twice, and it's been very handy. Now the other thing about tires is a couple days ago I was doing my daily check before I went out to ride, and I found a suspicious looking metal piece stuck in my tire, and sure enough it was part of a nail. So I got some pliers and I worked at it and I yanked that thing out, and it was probably about a ½ an inch long. And I checked the tire pressure. I put it through whatever tests I could before I went out and hit the road. And sure enough, in this case, I was lucky. I did not puncture the tube, and so the tire was fine. It was rideable. I wasn't losing any air. The tube was fully intact, and so I didn't have to worry about it. And I did just, when I started riding after I did my checks, I rode around the neighborhood a little bit. I stayed within a couple block radius, just warmed up the tires, spent 5-10 minutes just kind of riding around so that I could check it again and make sure that if for any reason the tire was compromised, I wasn't out and about in places that it could be dangerous. But like I said, everything was fine. I didn't have to worry about it, and if I had, again, because it's a tubed tire, I didn't really have to worry about it. The tube was fine, the tire is okay. It was just not sufficient damage for me to have to worry about it. And but if it was a tubeless tire, I might have been more concerned, because I don't necessarily know how much actual tire is left before I get into the other side and maybe have a small leak. And so in that case, I probably would have gone the extra step and done a patch and things like that. Or maybe if it was close enough to a leak or a slow leak, you never know when the right bump or the right pressure on that tire might just be what does it and causes that to rupture in the future. So again, just in terms of tire safety, I found that actually in that case the tubed tire really helped me out. I try to watch for little parts like these screws here that might start to generate some rust, because if they get moist, that it's just going to evaporate, but otherwise the water is just going to sit there. So I try to kind of watch for those kinds of things, clean my bike as often as I feel like it needs it. And like I said, back to the chain, Just making sure I have a regular cadence of cleaning that chain, because it does make a big difference, and the bike is so happy with a clean chain. I haven't had any real issues with this bike as an owner. Probably the biggest one is the quick shifter, and I've talked about it before. I probably just need to get it adjusted. It's consistent feedback though that I've seen online from other Svartpilen owners. You know, it's great. It's got a bidirectional quick shifter. Awesome. It's not super reliable. You'll get that quick shifter failure from time to time. It's not a big deal. If you turn your motorcycle off and then turn it back on again, that quick shifter failure goes away. And it's not like you have to suddenly pull over and fix something. It's a nuisance. It's happened to me probably 3 times this week, which I think is funny because I don't even use the quick shifter. But hey, so I mean, when it does give me that failure warning, I just kind of chuckle to myself and keep riding. But things to know